Awesome. Hey everyone, welcome to SC2 Day 2. Super excited to get started with my talk on selling to Cutco owners, so grab a pencil. I tend to talk fast, so I'm also going to include a doc for my manager to send in the chat so you all can look at my notes. But yeah, so in regards to selling to Cutco owners, first of all, if you all don't know this by now, you will learn very soon. Cutco owners love buying more Cutco. It's an addiction. I'm sure when you all got your Fast Start prizes or the Fast Start prizes that you're working for now, you're like, oh my gosh, these are so cool, I want more. Cutco owners have the same thing. They cook way more than you do. They love it even more than you do, which I know can be shocking sometimes. But the great thing is when you're on the phone, again, I'm just going to sort of go through the chronological order of what I do when I talk to Cutco owners and what I do to increase my closing percentage, increase my average order when I talk to Cutco owners. So the first thing is when you're on the phone with someone, most of the time when you mention Cutco, if they own Cutco, they'll tell you that they own some. When they tell you that they own some, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure to ask for them before your presentation for them to send you a photo of the Cutco that they already own. So that way, and you can even phrase it, hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm so glad to hear you already own Cutco. I would really, really appreciate it if you could actually send me a photo of the Cutco that you already own. That way we can make the most use of both of our times. And then they'll send it because they want to, their time is valuable just like yours. Yes, again, it'll make it more efficient for you to do demos at school, everything like that. Then when you hop on the demo, build rapport like a boss, per usual. And then when you start to go into the presentation, if you don't know if they own Cutco or not, first off, ask, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the presentation, have you ever heard of Cutco before? Do you know of Cutco? Do you own any? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, I own Cutco. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And then when they own Cutco, I ask them about their Cutco story. And I ask them 4 questions. So first, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, how long have you owned your Cutco? Okay, awesome. And who did you get your Cutco from, or how did you get your Cutco? Okay, great. And what do you love about it? That's question 3. Then they rant about how great their knives are and everything, which you already know, but you just want them to remind themselves of it. And then number 4, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if you could do it all over again, would you? And you do the little nod. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so then just to go into this, hey, Mrs. Jones, I know you've probably heard this before, but I just want to give you a highlight reel, a refresher, so you get all of the right info. So I'm going to go ahead and read from my manual. Is that okay? Then you go right into the script. Go through the demo, a couple questions that I ask before getting to the actual names and uses. When I'm at the top of the junk knife page, just ask what other knives they use at home. The likelihood is if they have 2 pieces of Cutco, they have something else that they're using, and you really want to know what that is so you can hit those points of the knives that they have on the junk knife page. Part of that, the success that comes with that is just knowing about other knife brands, knowing about Chicago Cutlery or Wishtoff or Pampered Chef, different things like that. Most of them you've learned about in training, but then you just want to figure out what knives they have so you can sort of tear them apart on the junk knife page, following the script, but making sure to highlight the different things that their knives have that make them suck. So figure out what knives they're using at home. If they say they're only using Cutco and they don't have a set that's at least the homemaker or bigger, you also want to know that, because then, they're not properly using their knives. They're not serving, their knives are not serving them the best way that they can. If they're using like 5 knives or the essential set and that's all that they're using with Cutco, they don't even have a trimmer. Like, what? So you also know they're not being served properly. So you just want to figure out what else they're using, and that's at the top of the junk knife page. Then continue through the script, just per usual. And then what I like to ask at the very beginning of that Forever Guarantee page, when it has the 4 different parts, is just asking if they've ever used the Forever Guarantee. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, have you ever gotten your Cutco serviced, or do you remember anything about the Forever Guarantee? Sometimes they'll say yes. Great. Sometimes they'll say no, and that's when you can be like, okay, great, yeah, let me remind you all about it. Either way, whether they say yes or no, still remind them, because it's important to know. It helps build the value. And then, of course, after the Forever Guarantee, continue to read that, show the customer testimonial video, and that's where you get into the cooking rapport, which is arguably the most important part, and that's how they're going to feel understood. You're going to know how to service them. It's going to make you be the best that you can be for them, and it's also going to get them the most out of the presentation as well. So after the customer testimonial video, before going into names and uses of the homemaker set, just say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, so I'm going to ask you a couple questions about your cooking habits just so I can help you meet your needs in the kitchen and at home. So again, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about your cooking habits just so I can help you meet your needs in the kitchen and at home. So I have a couple questions. Again, this will all be on the doc that I'm sending, but I still encourage you to take notes on this. So the first thing, you want to figure out who the cook is and who you're talking to. Okay, great. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, between you two, who does most of the cooking? Is there a chef and sous chef? Is it like a 50-50 split? 70-30, 99-1? Who does most of the cooking? You'll get a kick out of it. You'll figure out who. Okay, if say it's Mrs. Jones, okay, great, Mrs. Jones, do you like to cook, have to cook, or love to cook? Or again, yeah, so Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Jones, since you're the cook, do you cook because you have to, you like to, or you love to? Okay, awesome. You should already know that from the first page, but just in case, figure that out. Then you want to figure out how often they're cooking. I have three, the way I have it set up in my, I can actually show you here. The way I have it set up in my notebook is I have it set up as have to cook, like to cook, love to cook. And then I ask them, do they cook or make food 1 to 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week, or 4 to 7 times a week? I circle whatever it is. If it's have to cook 1 to 3 times a week, I'm thinking perfect homemaker. If it's like to cook 3 to 5 times a week, I'm thinking Siggy. If it's love to cook 4 to 7 times a week, I'm thinking Ulti. So that just sort of helps me prep. So again, figure out how often they're making food. Figure out what vegetables they like to prepare. Okay, yeah, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, typically what sort of vegetables do you like to have? Let them list it off. And then once they think they're done, sort of like thought joggers with recommendations, give them more to open their mind to. This way, when you show them the set, they don't have the excuse of saying like, oh, I would never use that, because you asked and they said that they would. So for example, if they just say they do carrots, celery, and I don't know, lettuce, you can be like, okay, great. And Mr. and Mrs. Jones, do you sometimes ever once in a while cut up onions, peppers, and tomatoes? Got it. All 3? Awesome. And do you sometimes ever once in a while do potatoes, sweet potatoes, squash, turnips? Totally. And just ask them all the vegetables that come to mind. So they're realizing, wait, I do cook a lot of food. I do prepare a lot of different food. And it gets them in that mindset of thinking about what they would use, thinking about what they need, and thinking about, just the different things in their kitchen that you can actually help them out for. So not only does it get them in the right mindset, but it also gets you in the mindset of like, oh, this is what I can upgrade them to. Do the same thing with fruits, what sort of fruits they like, thought joggers for fruits they might prepare sometimes ever once in a while. Same thing with meats. Then ask Mr. and Mrs. Jones what their go-to meals are. Sometimes they'll say like frozen pizza, and then you can laugh, but then you can bring it up when you get to the pizza cutter, all those things. And then what's also important, again, because you're doing your customer a favor by introducing them to even more Cutco, and you're servicing them by upgrading them. So what's important to think about and ask them about is what are foods that are difficult for them to cut. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, what are some veggies that are annoying or difficult for you to cut? Write it all down. Fruits? Meats, yeah, what about like miscellaneous things, bread, and you take your time. Again, cooking rapport should take between 5 and 10 minutes. You really should take your time with this because people buy because they feel listened and understood. And if you know nothing about their cooking, you can't really even understand them to begin with. So it's really, really important to build that cooking rapport. Then before you get into introducing the homemaker pieces, that line, you can just say, of course, most customers, of course you can buy individual pieces, but most customers agree that sets are a better value. And that's why we have our preferred customer upgrade program for people like you who already own and love Cutco. That way you can complete your Cutco set with no extra pieces or no extra cost from what you paid before. So the way that the upgrade works, just to let you all know, you can, whatever set that they choose that they want to upgrade to, how it works is you just take out the pieces that they already own. So if they own the trimmer and the butcher knife and they want the Siggy, you just take out the butcher knife and the trimmer and they get the discount on those. Or if they own a couple of table knives, then you take the table knives out and that gets deducted from the value and everything, or the price there. But yeah, so just to read you that line again, of course you can buy individual pieces, but most people agree that sets are a better value. And that's why we have our preferred customer upgrade program for people like you who already own and love Cutco. That way you can complete your set with no extra pieces or extra cost from what you paid before. Then when going through the homemaker pieces, just asking them, for the knives that they already own, again, if they own the trimmer and the butcher knife, when you get to the trimmer, yeah, what do you use your trimmer for? And oftentimes they'll say something totally wrong. Fix that. Tell them that that's not what that knife is supposed to be used for. Tell them what it's actually meant to be used for. So that way you build your credibility and your knowledge in the product. And they're also realizing like, oh, I am not cooking the right way and I really need the right pieces for that. It's like the butcher knife. I've had someone say before that like they were chopping with it. I was like, whoa, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you're going to mess up your knife. The butcher knife is for blah, 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 blah. And just following the script with that there. Otherwise, after going through names and uses, do the whooshed off page. I know sometimes if they own Cutco, it's tempting to skip right to the price and right to the packages. Whooshed off page is super important because oftentimes people don't remember how much they spent on Cutco. You want to put it in perspective for them. Do the summary, ask for the order, call your manager when you get that upgrade, and then take your time with the accessories and gifts, cookware, flatware. It's super easy to get Cutco owners to try out other options since they already know how awesome our products are. So again, build the like list, drop down from the like list if need be, or call your manager if you don't know what a like list is and you're in your first couple of weeks. Just call your manager when you come up with a list of everything that they like. So a couple do's or don'ts when it comes to Cutco owners, just 3 quick do's or don'ts. One, like I was saying before, don't skip past the value and just tell the price. The value needs to be greater than the price, and oftentimes, like I said, Cutco owners don't remember how much they got it for or how much high-quality stuff costs and why. So you want to remind them and you want to get them in that mindset of big, big numbers so that when you tell them with the discount, the homemaker's like $1,000 or whatever it is after you deduct their pieces, they're feeling a lot better and they're realizing they got a really, really good deal. Now, the second don't believe them when they say they have seen everything. They totally have not. I was talking to my elementary school science teacher on Friday, and I actually called her to book the demo at the Thursday team meeting, and she told me she didn't want to do it because she already owned Cutco. And I was like, Miss McCafferty, totally not a problem. Like I mentioned, I get paid just to show the product, so you really don't have to buy anything. Plus, I think it would be a ton of fun to catch up. So if you're open to it, I have a slot at this time, or would this time be better? You know, we picked 11. We hop on. She's like, Lindley, she's like, I just bought a cheese knife from Costco like 2 weeks ago at like, the Cutco stand. She's like, I'm really not buying anything. Love my Cutco, but I really don't need any. I went through, did the whole demo. We built a long like list. Then we got to the cookware. She's seen a couple presentations, went to Costco. She's like, I didn't know you had cookware. I was like, yeah, Mrs. Jones. Like, of course we have cookware. We're a whole kitchen company. So make sure to take your time and go through. Like I said, she went in thinking she wasn't going to get anything. She left with a cutlery care kit, a 5-piece garden tool set, a wedding gift for her friend, all engraved, and then also a free pizza cutter along with that. She didn't know any of that existed. And she told me that she didn't want to buy anything and that she knew everything that we had. So the don't believe when they say they've seen everything. They haven't. So do show them everything. And then the third thing is don't feel bad for upgrading them. If you're on here, you know that Cutco is a fantastic product. It sounds like, if you're on here spending your Saturday at a conference, that you want to get better and you want to service your customers best you can. If someone you're talking to only has a trimmer or has like a trimmer and a spatula spreader or even like a studio and you want to service them, the way that you service them and the way that you help them out in their kitchen is getting them a set that will actually cover all of their needs and all of their uses. So like that is at least a signature set for everyone. Vegetarians and vegans still need at least a signature set or a family set. And so just getting in that mindset of like a big part for me of being successful and having fun on demos and really, maximizing the experience for you and the customer is mindset. And the way to upgrade Cutco owners is to have the mindset this really is the best for them. It's something you're doing for them, not to them. I'm sure you've heard it a bajillion times, but I really want to hit that home. Cutco is a service. You are serving them something and helping connect them with something that is going to be in their kitchen for the rest of their life and their kids' lives, and it's going to improve their experience in the kitchen, their experience with cooking, their experience with their kids. They're going to have more, dinners at the table and everything like that. So just, feel great when you're upgrading them because Cutco is a service. Having 3 Cutco knives in their kitchen isn't doing them a service. They need and deserve better things, and better things in our company are sets. So remember, getting people a great deal on something that they need, even if they don't know that they need it, really, really is awesome. And that's something when it comes to Cutco owners, again, really easy to upgrade them to sets. They already love Cutco. You don't even have to convince them to love it. They can hold it. They can feel it. They can talk about their own experiences. So yeah, Cutco owners, fantastic people to talk to. They already love their Cutco. You also, if you're a new representative and you're like, man, like, oh, how great are these knives if you don't have your Fast Start prizes, You'll also build your own conviction in the product, hearing these people talk about their Cutco stories. I've met people who've had their Cutco since 1962, and they still love it, hadn't even gotten it serviced, and then I was like, man, like, I already know we have great stuff, but talking to Cutco owners reminds you how great it is, reminds them how great it is, and gets you both a really good deal in the end. Them an even better deal because they're all set in their kitchen forever. You just get a little bit of CPO and closer to a promo. But yeah, so get excited when you're recommended to Cutco owners. I always ask for Cutco owners when I'm doing thought joggers for recommendations just because they're super fun demos and they're always a really easy sale. And remember to plant the seed that you're their Cutco person, and when they want to upgrade it more in the future or want to give gifts in the future, you're the person they should reach out to. Or if you don't want them to reach out to you, I'll put my number in the chat and they can reach out to me. But otherwise, I will make sure to send that doc again in the chat. I hope this was a little bit helpful. I know I can get rambly, so I'm hoping the doc is super helpful for you all and organizes it in the right place. But otherwise, keep killing it with SC2. Thank you all for investing in yourselves, investing in the company, and in your future here. And I'm excited to see this weekend pop after 3 p.m. and see how everyone does what they're selling. So have a lovely rest of your Saturday, and back to you, Kyle.